Anaël, elle revient s'installer à Havane, figure-toi. Quoi?
A cosmopolitan collection of contemporary art, the ultimate 90s pop princess under the microscope, and a French thriller that upturns a marital idyll and reveals the dark side of illicit romance. Well, that's all coming up in today's show here on Arts 24. First, to an exhibition which explores alternative visions of our shared future as humans. After the End, Cartographies for Another Time is on display at the Pompidou Centre in Metz, eastern France, bringing together the work of 40 international artists. It's an attempt to challenge the Western principles which have dominated art history in the past. Our reporter Florence Gaillard went to find out more with Laurent Berthechet.
Branching out and looking at the world from different perspectives. This show, After the End, hopes to go beyond a Euro-centric narrative and provide us with artistic maps leading to alternative perceptions of time and place.
In this exhibition, you have this element clearly of violence. Just have to see this painting by Miguel and Juan González. What the artists in the exhibition do is to create poetical forms out of violent situation that allow us to overcome that violence, allow us to think about other possibilities of being together.
Colonization, slavery, and post-colonial assimilation, these issues have fed the artists' imaginations, giving rise to unexpected forms. One of them, a Palestinian photographer, spent a year in Hebron, where the settlements have taken over the very heart of the city.
We have here, it used to be the main street of the city, El Shahada Street. Israel closed it to the use of the Palestinian, except the inhabitants of the houses and the shops. But shops, they cannot function anymore. There's nobody to buy. So all the people had to close their shops. So they had to transform themselves out of their old city because the Israeli settlers are occupying it.
An occupation which creates a paradoxical situation. Palestinians then used barbed wire and stone blocks to fend off attacks from settlers. Elsewhere in the exhibition, a film blends contemporary images with the whistling language of the Canary Islands. It's part of a linguistic legacy left by the Amazigh, also known as Berbers, who were massacred in the archipelago in the 15th century.
Today, many Canary Islanders are reclaiming their Amazigh identity. You can see this in the protests against mass tourism in the Canary Islands. Many people are flying the Amazigh flag.
Created in the Canary Islands, the flag represents the Amazigh of the Atlantic in blue, those of the Atlas Mountains in green, the people of the Sahara in yellow, and in red, the symbol of the free man. A tribute to the memory of this people and to their long overlooked oral traditions.
We figured that in order to decolonize or to create our own cinematographic language, oral expression was a raw material we had to work with.
Ancestral stories, unexplored spaces, and intangible heritage materializing through these pieces of art on show at the Centre Pompidou Metz until September 1st.
She was the all-American girl next door, a teen sex symbol, and above all, a pop phenomenon. Britney Spears did much of her growing up in the spotlight before worldwide fame took a serious toll on her well-being, and she was devoured by the frenzied media coverage of her private life. Britney's now the subject of a new documentary made by Jeanne Burel. Here's more from the filmmaker herself.
Britney, c'était mon idole ultime dans les années 2000. Partout dans le monde, on s'arrachait ses disques, on lui déroulait le tapis rouge. Et on connaissait tous par cœur son premier single, devenu un vrai totem de la pop culture mondiale.
Britney is really fascinating because she's one of a kind and she really embodies at the same time the American dream, but also all the deviances and excesses of success and show business.
En voulant se montrer telle qu'elle est, sans tricher, Britney a ouvert la boîte de Pandore. Pour la machine médiatique qui s'emballe, elle devient la victime idéale. Et nous, les milléniaux qui rêvons de notre quart d'heure de célébrité, allons tous être les complices de sa chute.
The media with Britney were really cruel, and it was really symptomatic of the sexism and misogyny of this time, like the early 2000s. When she went out of the path that we imagined for her and that the industry imagined for her, we were really eager to see her fall because we like drama and we love seeing people, stars, and especially women going down because it's really entertaining. When we looked at her pictures, when we looked at her shaving her own head, when we looked at her being hospitalized, when we looked at her under her conservatorship, we loved it. So we participated to her being like a victim of the system. The public at the same time, and more specifically her fandom, helped her shed a light on her story, on her situation, which was an abusive conservatorship, and help her getting free. The public bullied Britney Spears and at the same time loved her enough to help her save herself.
After more than 13 years, a Los Angeles judge suspending Britney's father, Jamie Spears, as head of her conservatorship.
Britney is only a phenomenon today because we don't see her anymore in public, in the streets. She's like a virtual creature, which we only see existing on the social media, on Instagram.
Elle reprend la main sur son image. On voit bien à quel point c'est son laboratoire à elle. C'est intéressant qu'elle ne cherche pas à se maquiller, qu'elle fasse des images, des montages qui ne sont pas parfaits, parce que justement, la perfection, elle la connaît par cœur.
There's no other Britney than Britney.
Now to a new French film that delves into the darker recesses of marital dynamics as Omar Sy and Elodie Bouchez star as a couple whose peaceful family life is interrupted by the arrival of an old flame. Add to that a manipulative and possessive character, and what could have been a romance quickly turns psychological thriller. Well, Jennifer Benbrahim has more.
French cinema royalty are on the red carpet here in Paris. Omar Sy, Vanessa Paradis, Elodie Bouchez, and José Garcia are the stars of Anne Leni's film Out of Control. And since Omar Sy has become a big name in the US too, it's rare to see him on home turf, a far cry from Hollywood indeed.
Is it nice to do a film in France, Vanessa?
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Do you speak a bit of French?
Oh, just a little. I forgot a bit.
But Omar Sy's character has not forgotten his former lover, played by Vanessa Paradis, who reappears in his life in the psychological thriller. His relationship with his wife and family is hanging in the balance, under threat from another character played by José Garcia.
Mon boss est passé déposer des papiers pour toi.
The film's also a domestic drama about love and the passage of time.
Y a un problème?
Love stories that stand the test of time, they're beautiful. It's rare.
It's not movie love here, it's real-life love. And I'm glad you see that in this film.
There's a lasting love story here, but there's also a passionate encounter, which spirals.
Et tout va changer, on va vraiment être ensemble. Hein?
Mais Thomas, on n'a jamais parlé de ça.
Ah non, mais je sais, j'ai trop tardé. Je m'en veux.
For actress Elodie Bouchez, the complexity of her character was a major draw, and dealing with the question of toxic, manipulative behaviour felt very topical.
This sort of abusive behaviour has been in the spotlight, and now it's exposed as early as possible. It's easy to identify it, I suppose. I think that's because we're listening to the victims more than before. But when you do get caught up in this sort of spider's web, it's very, very hard to get out. And that can be extremely isolating, because it's hard to admit to everyone that you got scammed, in fact.
A deep dive into the inner workings and the grey areas within a marriage, and how fleeting trysts can, as the film's English title suggests, quickly get out of control.
Undulating forms and curious growths, Ernesto Neto's installations make up a magical landscape which visitors are invited to interact with. Drawing inspiration from bodies and nature, the Brazilian artist aims to offer a sensory experience through his pieces, and the latest is a huge snake winding its way through the central atrium of Le Bon Marché department store here in Paris. La Serpent, or female snake in French, is accompanied by a crocheted tree of life and is part of the artist's own reflection on mythologies and origin stories which humans have always told themselves. Here's more from the artist on why the snake is such an important symbol in his work.
The serpent is beyond masculine and feminine. It comes before that. It comes before the duality. Gender is after duality. And this negative vision against women is exactly where lives the big problems that we are living now. Because it's the lack of feminine, too much masculine, too much patriarchal, very much used to control the other.
We're wrapping up the show with a dive into the saturated colours of Pablo Picasso's artwork in a very 21st century reboot as created by the Atelier des Lumières in Paris. Well, the Projection Mapping Centre is now offering an immersive experience featuring the Spanish artist's iconic paintings paired with Le Douanier Rousseau's luminous landscapes. Well, here's a glimpse of what you can expect to see there. Otherwise, do join us next time here on France 24 for more arts and culture. There's more news coming up just after this.